Welcome back to the Wastewater Whiteboard series of this channel. And I put it up to a vote on one of my posts. And of the 10 people who voted, 6 of you asked for the breakpoint curve, and the other 4 asked for water versus brake versus motor horsepower. And I am happy to do that one next time, the horsepower one. But let's break down the breakpoint curve. I'm going to make some statements in this video that might go against your understanding of how chloramines and free available residuals interact with each other. Okay, and this is anecdotal experience. I have met several operators in my career who have no idea how this works, and it's not a dig on them because a long time ago I had no idea how this worked, and a long time ago being about 3 years ago. Okay, the plant I work in now really helped me truly understand this curve, as well as working in a chlorinated drinking water system. I do both, okay? But this channel is focused on wastewater treatment, so I'm going to talk about this from the wastewater point of view. But drinking water, folks, this is 100%. What I'm going to talk about is 100% going to show up on your drinking water exam too. So I'm going to actually say this is for both people. This is just more of a wastewater specific conversation. And drinking water, folks, I'll throw you something too. If you go to the very end of this video, after we're done here, a video will pop up on your screen, and that is my math problem to help prevent nitrification in a drinking water tank, because that is something I do almost every day. You might find some value there, so check that video out. It'll be linked at the end of the video. Okay, the first statement I'm going to say that might ruffle some feathers. I hope not. I don't mean anything by this. This is not me being judgmental. This is me just being observational, not critical. I have had respected, highly skilled colleagues that hold high levels of certification, high level being T4, T3, T4 operators. And if you're unfamiliar with what that is, in California, the T4 is the second highest drinking water certification you can have. Explain this to me incorrectly. And it doesn't mean that they're a horrible operator. It's not what I'm saying. It just means that they even were fuzzy on how this worked. So I'm going to break down how all of this works and hopefully demystify for you. Okay, let's jump in. You have an axis, 2 of them. On this axis, you have chlorine dose. And on this axis, you have chlorine residual. What are we talking about when we talk about chlorine residual? We're talking about total chlorine residual. Now, on different areas of the curve, that total chlorine residual is made up of either all combined or combined and free. Okay? And it depends on where you are and what has occurred chemically that determines where you land on this curve. So let's, and one other thing I'll say is when you see some of these graphs written, you'll see doses and you'll see residual numbers, actual numbers. I'm going to avoid that because in wastewater, this little column can really trip you up, as can this, depending on how much ammonia you have and depending on how much reducing agents you have. I can't guarantee this is going to be a 1 part per million and I'm done with my reducing agents. If I've got 1 part per million nitrite coming off my trickling filter, if I'm partially nitrifying, this might be a 5 part per million before I ever even see a total chlorine residual. Because in zone A are my reducing agents. Zone B are my combining agents. These are agents I combine with. In zone C, I'm destroying everything. Almost everything. And then in zone D, I'm combining again. I'm not combining, actually mostly all combined already. I am now free available. Okay, a little bit of a misspeak there. My combined agents are still around from over here. As I add total chlorine, this is all free. Okay, so you have 4 zones, A, B, C, or D, or you can say 1, 2, 3, and 4, or you can say blue, green, yellow, and red. I don't care how you do it, just know that there are 4 zones. Okay, so let's start adding chlorine. I add until my reducing agents are gone. And on my grade 4 test, this showed up. Okay, my grade 4 wastewater exam. something like this showed up. I can't tell you exactly what it was because I'm not allowed to share exact scenarios. It was one of my essay questions. But yeah, know that. As I continued to add total chlorine after my reducing agents are resolved, I may have ammonia present. Now, drinking water plants, you're adding aqueous ammonia here if you're using chloramines. But in a wastewater plant that's not nitrifying completely, you're going to have ammonia present, or nitrifying at all. You're going to have some ammonia there. Now, I got quite a bit of ammonia in my trickling filter effluent. So when both of my processes are running in parallel, I use a combined residual to disinfect because oxidizing the ammonia is impractical from a financial standpoint. And I have enough contact time in my contact chamber to effectively disinfect. I have to run a higher residual here because it's a weaker disinfectant than free available, quite a bit weaker. But it's effective. So, so long as my turbidity is in a decent spot. So, when I'm adding my chlorine, monochloramines begin to form at a 3-to-1 chlorine to ammonia ratio. Okay, so in here is free ammonia. Free ammonia is present in here, okay? And as I continue to add, I'm going to start eating that free ammonia when I start getting into a 4 and a 5-to-1 ratio. 5-to-1, right here on the hump, I'm at peak disinfection when I'm using a combined residual like a monochloramine, okay? Other things are forming in here, by the way. Chlororganics. You might be familiar with trihalomethanes. This is where they're formed. Okay? And so when you get to the hump, you keep adding chlorine, and what ends up happening is you start forming other compounds like di and trichloramines. Okay? You are now starting to oxidize the monochloramines, or the chloramines are starting to oxidize. You are out of free ammonia. No free ammonia is in existence anymore. You are destroying the chloramines. And some of the chlororganics are getting destroyed. This is a destruction area. You don't want to be here. In my plant, I bounce back and forth depending on what processes are running, okay? And I'll explain that a little bit later. I don't want to lose my momentum here in my conversation. Just know you don't want to be stuck here because this is where you start violating. There's not a lot of disinfection power at the breakpoint. And so as you're continuing to add chlorine, you're destroying your chloramines, trihalomethanes, sorry. Dichloramines are formed, then trichloramines. Trichloramines pretty much gas off and not terribly effective. You want to be using monochloramines. And then you hit the breakpoint as you continue to add. The breakpoint is where all of the destruction is now done. And whereas over here you were doing a 3-to-1, maybe a 5-to-1, now you're here, as you add chlorine, your residual rises at a 1-to-1 ratio. And it is mostly free. So you're going to have some combined chlororganics and combined residuals still around. But as you climb, your free should be at least 85% of your total chlorine residual. Okay? I got that off of an academic paper, if you're wondering where I got that number from. And as you're starting to climb, your oxidant level climbs as well. And you are done with breakpoint chlorination. So when the reason I know this is a bad place to live, I'm going to revisit this. When my MBR is running, only my MBR is running. The trickling filter's on, not running because I don't have enough flow. I briefly visit this zone and then jump right to this zone because there's no ammonia. I get like 96% nitrogen removal. Nitrogen removal, not just nitrification, but we denitrify as well. So there's not going to be a lot of nitrite hanging out. I jump right to the breakpoint and I run maybe a 1 part per million free available, and that's good enough. I get great sample results from that for my coliform samples. But if I'm hanging out over here, I want to run at least a 6 part per million. There was a 1 over here. I want to run at least a 6. If I'm under a 6, I change the ratios. I mess with this a little bit and tweak my chlorine. I start running a free ammonia samples to see how much runway I have. Maybe I'm actually here and maybe ammonia dropped. That's why I actually like to run a 3-to-1. If there's a drop in ammonia, I don't have a lot of control over that. I don't have online analyzers here to tell me what my ammonia is. I don't even know if that's a thing to have an online ammonia analyzer for wastewater. I'm sure there is. They got analyzers for everything. But I'm doing grab tests when things like this are happening, and I'm analyzing what's going on. So I may find that my chlorine residual is dropping, but it's not because I'm over here. It's because I'm over here, okay? And I'm feeding too much chlorine. I need to back the chlorinator off. I've experienced that so many times. And it takes some guts, if you're not familiar with this, to say my chlorine residual is dropping. I need to back my chlorinator off. That's when I truly started to understand this, by the way. I was finding that I was pumping more and more chlorine, and I wasn't getting it. I was hanging around a 0.5 in my contact chamber. That's not a place you want to be living at a wastewater plant. And I figured out, holy cow, I'm chasing my tail. Let me back off a little bit. I had no free ammonia in there. Let me back off a little bit. And when I backed my chlorinator off, I was actually hanging out over here. It showed up there, and I was back to a really healthy, probably a 9 part per million chlorine residual. Okay, because I backed my chlorine off, and I was on the wrong part of the hump. And so I want to say something else. Monochloramine and free available chlorine cannot exist together. That may be controversial, and it shouldn't be. I feel like I've demonstrated that that's the case through my lecture here, but let me explain what I mean. If you have any free available in a monochloraminated system, what's it going to do? It's going to keep combining with the monochloramines until it destroys them. I hear some operators say stuff like, yeah, I've got a 2 part per million monochloramine, but a 0.5 free available, and a 4.5 free available, so we're good. That's not a thing. You either have some false positive from your free available, and I'm going to do a DPD test at some point where I can explain what you're seeing. I know what you're seeing. It's just too much to get into on a Breakpoint Chlorination lecture, but you are getting a phantom free available. You cannot have a free available and a monochloramine residual at the same time. The chlorine just combines until it attacks, and then you're free. Free's over here. There's no free over here. And I say this kind of, I feel like I might be coming off a little harsh when I'm saying that. There's so many operators that I've run into that think that's a thing, and it's not a thing. Free, you must break point in order to get to free. Okay. I hope that helped. I hope this is well received. If you have any issues with what I said, please, I'd love to have a conversation about this. This is one of the most misunderstood concepts in wastewater treatment and drinking water treatment that I have seen, is how the breakpoint curve works. And I have even had supervisors that I respect and am friends with to this day that have explained this to me, with confidence, by the way. I went with it because, and then I turned out later, I realized that no, they didn't have a great understanding of it. And if you see anything that you feel I missed, please put it in the comments below. I love talking about this stuff with you guys. And if you have a question, any questions at all, like I said, comments. If you want a video on something, comment. And I hope you guys have a great day and got something out of this. Take it easy.